Good evening to everyone over in Australia, and good morning to anyone who's over on my side of the world. Welcome to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This is the Trackstars Endurance Series. We'll be running live today with 4 hours of racing. If you're unfamiliar with the format, we split the 4 hours into two chunks of 2 hours, two different stints. The race shared across a driving tandem, two drivers, and classes GT and LMP. You see there a few examples of each. There's the number 477, the Elite Brake and Mechanical entry, the Porsche 919. We also see there Huzo in the wonderful CP Motorsports example of the Porsche 919. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The blue and white, the number 16, that's very much a Dyson Racing livery from years past in the American Le Mans series. Of course, that is appropriate here this particular weekend, since we are at a circuit that's played a host to a fair share of all-time great American Le Mans series moments, including the debut of the Porsche RS Spider all the way back in 2005. Of course, Porsche and Penske announcing a return to Le Mans and the current equivalent of the American Le Mans series, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So interesting to think that 16 years ago they were debuting the Porsche RS Spider LMP2, and the car's now running, or the team and the manufacturer now running together to create a new Le Mans Challenger. Of course, hello to everyone in the chat. Just while we're here, chat, I see a couple of the regulars in. Can you let me know if the audio's coming out okay? I'm running my headset as opposed to my regular mic today, just as a bit of an experiment, doing some on-the-job experimentation, and so it would be ideal to know if it's working okay. So heading into this weekend, it is the RoboSport Racing crew in the number 14 car that currently lead the championship. Currently don't see that car, although it's probably in the pit lane somewhere. Oh, I'm still on the circuit. That's not ideal. No, let me out. I don't want to be on track. Okay, cheers guys, thanks for the word there on the test. There's Mix 123 driving the number 52 car, or the 77 of course. I think that one's caught me out a few times. The EBM RoboSport Racing combined Chevrolet Corvette. They currently run 5th in the GT standings. The leader in GT is this car, the 95 It's Racing esports machine. Should enable the keyboard as well, that would be a good idea. I swear I've been awake for ages and I've not just drunk my morning coffee. There's Loudy Dark Mist in the number 20 car. Let's take a look at Loudy. Car number 20. Toyota TS030s. Little Blacko joins the room. I believe that's the man who'll be carrying the torch for the number 14 RoboSport Racing entry. This is the number 20 car, the sister machine, into the barriers there. 5th in the point standings at the moment on 234 points. Quite close at the top of the order though. The 14 Robbo Sport Car is on 294. The Mash Spuds Racing number 32 in the factory Toyota colours on 288. And CP Motorsports Porsche car number 16 that we see out there on track running on 282 points coming into this round of the series. So very much all to play for at the sharp end in prototype. It's Racing Esports with a little bit more of a buffer to the rest of the pack in GT, but certainly not even close to decided at this stage. So we look forward to an action-packed couple of hours of racing here. Instead of 14. Okay, they've changed the number. Okay, so the 14 Robbo Sport Car is going to become the 22, which would align with the Robbo Sports normal numbering system. But I have number 14 on my point standing, so that's where I got that from. My apologies. 477 car, using all the curb and a little bit more there, heading into the corkscrew. Rainy curve, a particularly intense adventure through the lens of a prototype car. So then Huso continues to run laps. There's Brandosa in that 34. Let's take a look at Dis Woods, who, as of now, is set to be double stinting. He's going to do 2 hours in this GTE Porsche 911 and then hop into the 919 LMP car, the number 16, for the second 2 hours of the race. I was meant to be driving the CP Motorsports car, but I haven't had much chance for any practice, and I don't particularly want to ruin their contendership in the championship. If they've got a driver the calibre of Dis Wood who's willing to hop in the prototype, it's definitely better for their season that he does. So, vacated my seat as quickly as I gained it. But I might yet race in the second part. It depends if anyone needs it. I've got my driving gloves on standby. We believe that It's Racing will be bringing you the second part of the race today. Incidentally, if it does do that, regardless of whether I race or not, I'll hook him up with or I'll hook into his Discord and hopefully do some in-driver stuff or in-race stuff if I am racing, much like Dick Johnson used to do back in the Australian touring car days. One of the things that fascinated me growing up was watching old Australian touring car coverage where they'd literally radio into Dick during green flag running in a race. He'd have an armrest going and he'd be chatting away to the commentators like it was nothing. There's Devlin Calypso, the Belgian driver. I imagine he'll be sharing once again with Scale 02, the number 90 Toyota. Running a fair bit of understeer there. Of course, these hybrid prototypes do tend to lean towards understeer. Front axle electrified. Qualifier begins, so we are getting into the sharp end of the action now. 10 minutes of qualification. Benjo with a great memory there in the chat. I remember that as well, Benjo. I wasn't around for it, but I do remember seeing it. We are ready for qualification then. Everyone exiting the pit lane. Trackstars Endurance Series is underway for today, with 10 minutes of qualifying followed by 2 hours of racing action, and this will be one of the cars to watch. Little Blacko has left the room. That would suggest he's having some connection issues. Qualifying will no doubt continue, but then we may end up restarting in order to get him back into the race. We've had some shaky ground so far this season in regards to connection and such. Let's hope that this goes relatively smoothly from this point on for Little Blacko, one of the best drivers in Trackstars, someone who's looked very good in the LMP car. It'd be good to see him out there. Under the braking, into the Andretti hairpin then goes Punt for the first flying lap of the day, fighting the car for traction there. As a rule, the Toyota seems to do a little bit better with its battery. The battery seems to be engaged more of the time. It seems to charge that little bit faster, some more megajoules available to it. And around a track with as many acceleration zones as Laguna Seca, that could be critical. We watch on then as Punt dives into the corkscrew for the first time toward the rainy curve. A little bit of off-roading and a little bit more off-roading, unfortunately. Has thrown the lap away there. Here comes Devlin Calypso. Gives Punt a wide berth. The 2 EBM cars following. And Loudy Dark Mist. All of the prototype runners have found the same bit of track. Calypso sets the bar at 1:15 for the EBM cars side by side. It's a 1:13.433 for Brandosa. That's the benchmark for the time being. Punt obviously with a compromise lap. 1:21.6 meanwhile for Rubber Gear 94.93. Running some Grand Theft Auto decals on the side of that car and on the back, so Gran Turismo and Grand Theft Auto in harmony here. That particular colour scheme. He's beaten Diswood on the first lap by 2.1 seconds, so Rubber Gear looks like a fairly promising combination. He and that car. Let's see what Punt is doing on this lap. He's warming up the tyres. I don't know how this lap is looking to this point. We'll see once he gets to the next split. 5.1 off his best, so clearly this lap hasn't gone quite to plan. Let's check in with Brandosa. Crossing the line now. Goes even quicker. 1:13.1 to top the timing sheets provisionally, with just over half of the session to go. 17.9 for Punt, at least puts him ahead of the GT cars. Which to an extent in qualifying is all you need. Here comes It's Racing in the V12 Vantage, the 95 car. Out of the final turn goes the Cartel Equipment hire. It's Racing Esports Aston. No quicker that time, but only a 10th off, so looking consistent out there. He has had a mixed bag of performances in the Formula Track Stars and the Track Stars touring cars here at Laguna over the last several weeks. Here comes Huso, only just now setting his first flying lap, so we better keep an eye on his progress. More tyre weaving from Punts, so again, doesn't look like he's had a particularly great lap. This time, he's got clear track ahead of him. Is this the lap where he can set a representative time? Let's follow Huso. Track Stars Formula 2 champion from last year. And up the hill, the quick left-hand kink, and then up the Rahal straight, uses a good amount of curb there. Looked like he had decent corner speed as well. Tips it into the corkscrew. Again, very clean through there. Didn't look like he lost any time of note. 7.9 seconds up on his best time, so he has set a lap, but it wasn't particularly mind-blowing. Comes out of the final corner. I think he may have just slid it wide a bit there and had to yield some corner speed, but nonetheless moves himself up to P4. Let's take a look at Punts. He's been searching for a perfect flyer, and it looks like he's got one. This looks like a comfortable pole position. Yes, by 1.8 seconds, a 1:11.290. Ball is in everyone else's court now. That performance from Punts. Diswood heading into the final corner, and he does so with a flourish on the dirt. Drivers in the pit lane would imply that they are happy with their performance to this point in the session. Punts off his pace, see if he can better himself. Brandosa's come back out onto the circuit with something to prove. He's going to have 2 flying laps to try and get closer to Punts. A lot of drivers just on their outlap now. Huso starting his flyer. Now he's behind the Belgian car, the number 90 from Nightmare Walking Racing, who are just ahead of him in the qualifying session at this stage. Can he better his time on this lap? We've talked at length about the history here at Laguna. Years and years, decades and decades of historic moments in IMSA competition, and that was a moment there. One of the GT's Ferraris, I believe that was Rugworth, ended up having a moment there. Let's see if we can catch that on replay, or have I left it too late? Oh yeah, just wheel on the dirt. Certainly something didn't go to plan there for Rugworth, and it affected Huso, who's got damage now and doesn't have a representative time on the board, so that could be problematic for him. Brandosa improves to a 1:12.7. Lots of people leaving the room. Things don't quite seem to be hooked up right at the moment. Ah yes, Benjo, we'll see the number 46 enter TS2 at some point soon. Hoping that my commentary commitments allow me to do the next round. I'll see. But it will be trickier to do Trackstars races from here on out with the real life commentary commitments, but hopefully we can get a couple in this season. Looks like Brandosa has spoiled the lap there. Everyone else more or less done, or are they? There's Mitch. Doesn't look like he's going to improve. No, he's already well into the 130s, and he's got engine damage, so that answers that one. Oh, it's racing. Coming out of the final corner. It's a 1:23.9, which is an improvement, but doesn't get him any closer to moving up a position. Just a couple of tenths quicker than his best. Just the 12 cars left, which would imply we've had a few issues with connection. Good to see teammates from across the Trackstars touring cars and other Trackstars series supporting their stablemates, even if they're not set to compete themselves. We see the likes of Deadpool willing on the team at It's Racing Esports. Race winner last week in the Trackstars touring cars. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a false dawn, however. We're not going to be able to let's hope things go decently here. Let's pray that we don't end up with any significant connection issues as we get this race back underway, but of course with the disconnects we will be having a red flag here. Not quite sure that that 3, 2, 1 countdown happened at the right moment, but nonetheless. Looks like we have everyone back in with the exception of Broccolilli. So hopefully it won't be too long before we can get this started. Lots of people alluding to the fact that Rubber Gear and Metal Gear might be the same person, which I quite genuinely can neither confirm nor deny. There is the number 22 car. Familiar colours of the RoboSport Racing Toyota, one of them at least. There's the CP Motorsports Porsche. Little Blacko making use of the track time he's getting while we wait for a full grid, as he didn't get to do quali. Connection issues thwarting that for him. Of course, the TS050 hybrid, no longer the current model for Toyota at Le Mans. The new GR010 is the way forward for Toyota. It's part of the new hypercar category. Still very cool to have the majority of the WEC P1 field from the height of the hybrid LMP1 era in the game. The 2016 Toyota and Porsche, as well as the Audi, which we're not seeing in the series at the moment. It is an option, but no one's been brave enough to hop in to the rather warthog-looking car. Rugworth in the Gulf Ferrari. Dug relatively deep into my memory banks, and I can't recall a Gulf liveried Ferrari in reality at any point, but of course Gulf colours have been famously adorned to many Porsches, McLarens, Aston Martins, and Audis over the years. To name but a few. There's Mix in the 77. Apologise now if I continue to occasionally slip up and call it the 52, but it is right there in front of me. There's Punts. Showed some great pace in quali. Did take him a while to get there though, so we'll see how his race form is now. Bites at the cherry before setting a fast lap, but without those qualifying afterburners on, we'll see whether or not he's got the consistency to make things work here at Laguna across the 2 hours. Of course, traffic is going to be more prominent here, given the short bullring nature of this circuit. All Rugworth with another moment at the exact same place he had in qualifying. He's going to be hoping he doesn't keep repeating that error come race time. That time from Punts with a full tank of petrol was enough for pole position. Had this been qualifying, no one else went quicker than that in quali. So Punts has clearly got form, and having proven that, he's now going to smoke some tyres. 5 minutes until we give up on waiting for Broccolilli. So says It's Racing. That's the 34 car. A funky black and purple. Brandosa. Mitch in the 477. Huso in the 16. The Porsches all very well turned out. Again, you can see the Porsche definitely isn't as efficient on its electric motors, which could be a deciding factor in today's race. Lifting and coasting critical in this kind of car. We've seen in real life that LMP1 drivers, or I suppose now hypercar drivers, that have experience in the Formula E Championship, where of course efficiency and preservation of power is fairly important. We've seen that they've come back into WEC, come back into the internal combustion hybrid cars with a much better understanding of how to fuel save and go the distance. Interesting how the skill set evolves for a racing driver. I don't think a driver ever truly stops learning. Even experienced hands, many decades of experience, end up learning new things along the way. The likes of Tom Christensen and Alan McNish joining the hybrid era at the end of their careers, the last couple of seasons, and adapting very well, taking world championships apiece. So Tom Christensen, Mr. Le Mans. Just a couple of weeks ago here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, in real life, we had the Trans Am category featuring one Boris Said, the rather cultish figure in American motorsport, a driver with a very good fan base, a fairly large following. And he was racing in the Trans Am category. He's now semi-retired, but he does the Trans Am to keep his eye in. Long-time BMW Works driver, of course. Some issues with what looks to be Broccolilli departing the race, and unfortunately, Disappointed, who's meant to be doing stint 2, is apparently in the pub, so that's problematic. Benjo, the GT3 cars won't be a threat to the LMPs anywhere, I'm afraid. Looks like we might have N-Spud coming in to the PLE seat, the Pit Lane Esports seat, which could be an interesting turn of events, given he's meant to be racing the Toyota Mash Spuds Racing prototype for the second half of the race, so it looks like he might be doubling up this evening now. Perhaps this delay will impact a few things, including how far we may run into the night. As long as we get this done before we finish Monza, it's still an improvement. There's the message, watch out for Spud's controller. And Disappointed has gained himself the serial championship winner. Spud P666. Disappointed in the Discord writes, Spud is a machine. We'll see just how reliable that machine is in a car that he's not used to. But great to see Spud in an environment we're not familiar with here. Nothing like watching a fish out of water try and learn to swim on land. I'm sure, though, Spud's skill set transferable across multiple disciplines. He should have no trouble adapting. Oh, little Blacko, little bit of Tokyo Drift. And a little bit more. That car looking a tad bit feisty. Just a couple of bites back from the car. Oh, Blacko just struggling to keep it on the road. It's a good thing he's getting this practice mileage in. There is the Pit Lane Esports BMW. We'll have N-Spud at the wheel. It's Racing has started the final. We are about to go racing here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. 4 hours of Trackstar's Endurance Series action. The first 2-hour stint about to get underway with the Mash Spuds car of Punts on pole with Brandosa alongside him on the front row. So Punts, Brandosa, Dark Mist and Devlin Calypso, the first 4 cars. Of course, we will have the customary formed up rolling start. Hopefully everyone has realised that. Looks like everyone has read the briefing, which is always good. So they will line up 2 by 2 in just a moment. It's Racing there. Of course, the leading car in the GT points. With a fair buffer at this stage over the car in second, which is the 47 Mash Spuds Racing car, the other Aston, which just sits behind in the hands of Xylon 96. But 4 hours of racing could change everything in the GT points. It's been fairly secure running so far for the It's Racing Esports team. But of course, we are at any point liable to see that completely change. And well, he's got 2 cars ahead of him today, Rubber Gear being one of them. The Pisswasser Racing team. Here we go. Rolling up 2 by 2. Oh, Loudy Dark Mist having some issues there, getting the car out of the corner. Line up 2 by 2. And the racing begins. Punz has got the jump on the field there. Brandosa under pressure from Loudy Dark Mist as we get underway. Brandosa very late on the brakes into the Andretti hairpin for the first time. Has everybody got through that cleanly? Little Blacko has found the dirt and someone else has gone off track as well. That was Loudy Dark Mist. Let's just take a look at what happened to him. He simply put the power down too early. Yes, indeed, cold tyres biting him. GT order, Rubber Gear leads from It's Racing and Diswood, and look at that battle further back. Enspud immediately with some elbows out and making his way up the GT order. 15 cars on circuit, but where is the 15th of them? Xylon with engine damage. Let's see if we can see what happens. No, it had already happened, so I'm guessing it was the Andretti hairpin. The engine damage would normally lead to a safety car. Don't know whether... well, there isn't an actual safety car, so I don't think... see anything come of that. Punz leads. Devlin Calypso up to 3rd place, but for how long? Because he's got Huso all over the back of him. Blacko 5th, Dark Mist and Smitch the top 3, or the top 7 I should say. The battle for 3rd though, hotting up. Little Blacko to the inside of Huso, takes the position. Playing into the favour of the number 90 car. The Belgian contingent in the Toyota. Oh, Little Blacko dives up the inside and a hip check between the 2 Toyotas. I'm not sure how that one will be looked upon. Let's take a look ourselves. Runs up behind as they head into the corkscrew. Much later on the brakes, kind of has to avoid the back of Devlin Calypso more than anything, I think. I'm not so certain that was meant to be a move, to be honest. I think that might have been avoiding the car's rear end, more so than trying to make a move. Spud there getting a wheel on the dirt in the background as Diswood runs 2nd place in the GTs at the moment. Rubber Gear running off into the distance as It's Racing follows in 3rd place. SDRT Wiseacre for Shaden Racing Team, who of course had a great run in the touring cars last week with promising young charger Mountain Goat at the wheel. Let's see how their current form translates to the GT category here. Spud being followed by Wiseacre at the moment. Now we know Spud is a controller driver. I'm guessing he's also currently got something close to a stock setup on that BMW. He's not exactly had much time to dial in the optimum. There's Mix. There's Rugworth, who to this point seems to be holding on to the Ferrari decently. Xylon, meanwhile, already a lap down after that engine damage. Punz it is then, who leads the way. Bud in the Discord actually confirms he's going in stock. So he is running a car on the default settings. Blacko into the corkscrew. Uzo and Laudy rounding out the top 5 at the moment. It looks as though Laudy is not doing badly here. He's obviously had that moment out of the very first corner in the first lap, but he's recovering well with some good race pace. He's on the attack, and oh! Door to door, side pod to side pod, as more accurately in these cars. And Laudy manages to make a gap out of nothing. Let's take a look at that one again. Gets a good run out of the last corner in the slipstream. Oh, that was... They both chose the inside line. They were very lucky boys to come out of that one unscathed. Now, I think part of that was down to the Porsche running out of power there. Again, the electric motors on the Porsche noticeably less efficient, and that's why the Toyota suddenly leapt past the Porsche in a straight line. First of the Porsches is Brandosa. Meanwhile, Puntz is heading into the traffic. Makes his way around the outside of Rugworth. Again, the traffic almost immediately a factor in this race. 1:11.6 for Puntz as well. His pace is really impressive. 3.8 seconds to the good. So gradually building that advantage at the head of the pack. Running solid in third at the moment. Worth making it easy, but Blacko didn't quite feel confident in taking the apex there. Could have been an aeroplane crash if it hadn't gone to plan. Laudy, meanwhile, having gotten past Huso, is now hunting down the podium position. So good recovery drive so far. Devlin Calypso a little more lonely now, having been up in the podium battle in the early going. Smitch, S-Mitch, however you want to say it. I know it's S-Mitch, but you know, Smitch sounds interesting. 477 car running P7 at the moment, and it's the first of the GT cars, the imposing figure that is the Group 3 Corvette, currently leading the charge, while Diswood has just started to shake off its racing a bit. Of course, these two had a couple of incidents together just last week in the Trackstars touring cars. I understand there's no animosity between them, but still, let's hope lightning doesn't strike twice. Puntz weaves his way through the leaders of GT now, getting right to the sharp end of the GT class already. It's racing, running the wipers. Gonna struggle for rain in Monterey, California, my friend. Hello to everyone watching the stream, joining the chat. Great to have you joining us here for the Trackstars Endurance Series, the third round of the season. Been to Monza, been to Fuji. Plenty of historic tracks still to come, least of which the 6-hour race at Le Mans later in the year. Sadly, that's one that I won't be there for. I was hoping to hop in and do some driving during that one, but sadly my commentary commitments in the real world don't align with my racing aspirations in the virtual world. damage for Esmich, the Elite Brake and Mechanical 477 car. About to be in for a new set of Continentals and some bodywork hammering. No such issues for teammate Brandosa though. 34 car running strong in second place at the moment. Yes, losing time to Punts, but P2 is not to be sniffed at, and I hazard to guess that a lot of the time loss is down to the battery not recharging as well on that Porsche. Little Blacko, meanwhile, running P3. Noticeably closing in on Brandosa over the last couple of laps. Cloudy Darkness isn't really catching Blacko in return, as we were potentially expecting. Blacko in that 22 car didn't get through qualifying, of course. His connection bit the dust. Doesn't seem to have hampered his form in the race. He's had a clean run so far. We've seen plenty of battles between Little Blacko and Brandosa over the last few months in these prototype cars. It'll be Durox 22, I believe, that takes over the 22 car later on. Expect him to be a force to be reckoned with. Gap continues to come down. Move right on board with Little Blacko. Through the corkscrew. Gets a bit of a wiggle on. Currently setting his best laps of the race. This one could be the first lap under a 1:12. Coming up on some of the GT traffic, the recovering Xylon, of course, in the Mashed Spuds GT entry. Which way is Xylon picking? Had to hesitate a bit there, Little Blacko. And 1:11.8. You see there, that was a good illustration of some of the stresses that the prototype drivers go through. Of course, the GT cars have to go somewhere. But sometimes the prototype driver isn't sure where the GT car is going, and the GT driver's wondering where the prototype driver wants him to go. So sometimes this is rocket science. Oh, just a bit quicker through the flick onto the Rahal straight there was Brandosa. Was a little more confident on testing the limits of the outside of the track. Brandosa's gained a little bit of time, but then we see down the main straight, tenths of a second evaporating as the Toyota retains battery and the Porsche does not. Close in on Rugworth. Oh, and a bit of a hip check from Rugworth's Ferrari to Little Blacko there, but thankfully doesn't cost anyone anything. Expecting to run around the outside. It nearly went awry for him. Some talk there in the chat, the fundamentals of GT driving, and certainly it is better to stay online, but what's effectively a straight, and especially with that line that they use here, it can be quite difficult to decipher what you want to do, but nonetheless, everyone got through both of the deep breath moments cleanly in the last few minutes. Yuzo not quite having the start to this race that I was anticipating for him. But two of the Yuzo brothers racing, of course, in track stars, and there's talk of a third one joining us for Le Mans. They're everywhere, they're multiplying. Now, Blacko right up behind Brandosa. We know the Toyota is stronger down the main straight, and doesn't look like Brandosa is going particularly defensive here. Sure enough, Blacko puts the car through at the Andretti hairpin. About too much of a punch up with Brandosa. Potentially knowing that this is not the track for the Porsche. Just yielding a bit. Brandosa having a little bit of a moment there. See how easy it is to get it wrong at the corkscrew. It was a tad early on the power, and then just put the power back on at the wrong part of the crest at the corkscrew, and that's all that separates you from throwing it at a wall. There's N-Spud, continuing to run valiantly in the pit lane esports car with 0 in the way of prep, 0 in the way of setup. SDRT Wiseacre has got past Spud, but it's a disappointed point while he's out. It's just good that the car is running laps, so he doesn't start the second stint 80 laps down, unfortunately. Lily had to duck out last minute. Once crossed the line, has been consistently digging into the 111s, and his best lap is a 110.5. I believe that's quicker than he went in qualifying. So narrowing and lowering the bar ever more is Punts. We know to expect good things from Punts, and consistently he delivers. 8.3 seconds the gap between he and Blacko. At the moment, the pace advantage seemingly still with Punts. See how that evolves across the stint. Looking at the fuel, looks as though, yeah, Punts has a fair bit more fuel, so I think he looks fairly comfortable to do this as a one-stop. Brandosa, particularly little Blacko, I can't see that just over half a tank lasting another 38 minutes, if that's where it is after 22. Rubber Gear continues to build that advantage in the black and gold Corvette. Very fetching livery. Just coming up to lap Rugworth. Ferrari a challenging car. And Rugworth moved off as if he was going to let Rubber Gear through, and then like changed his mind almost, but makes it fairly clear, fairly easy for Rugworth eventually, for Rubber Gear I should say. Rugworth has now been overtaken incidentally by Xylon, recovering in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Singing V12 that raced as the predominant GT3 car for Aston Martin from 2012 through to 2018. Before being superseded by the current V8 powered Vantage AMR GT3 car. This revived Vantage had quite a long racing career. The earliest examples of racing Aston Martin Vantages of this shape can be traced back to 2007, the first year of GT4 class racing. The V8 Vantage N24 running as a GT4 car as far back as 2007. The GT2 car, another V8 Vantage, introduced in 2008, then evolve into the Aston Martin Vantage V8 GTE for the 2012 season, the same year that the V12 Vantage was introduced to supersede the DBR-S9, the little brother of the Aston Martin DBR9 that we have in the game. Battle still going on here for second place. Brandosa has not let go of Blacko. Blacko's pace fluctuates between the 112s and the 111s, seemingly at a whim. A little bit of lag there for Blacko. Now we've seen him exit quali, so hopefully it's nothing too terminal. Seconds, the advantage for this man Punts, with 25 minutes of the race in the book, so he's doing a good job here in the Mash Spuds Racing Toyota. That much cannot be disputed. Blacko and Brandosa still close together, but then any time that Brandosa makes across the lap is almost all hoovered away as the car hits an effective brick wall in regard to battery power. Oh, I saw someone there with an ungodly amount of lag by the looks of it. Was that Rubber Gear? No. Not sure who that was, but someone certainly had what looked to be some connection fun. Still have 15 in the room at least. Loudy Darkmist's pace is looking fairly good as well. Of course, he had that moment at the very start of the race that put him to the back of the prototype field. I think without that, he would be in amongst this battle for second place at the moment, but still good to see him recovering so well. Once again, especially in that final sector of the lap, Brandosa makes up a good few tenths, then it all seeps away again. Closing up on another elite brake and mechanical liveried car of Mix. No, yes, it does have some EBM stickers prominently on it. I thought I was not hallucinating. EBM and RoboSport, certainly in terms of decals, sharing billing on that car. Let's check in with Spud again. He's caught back up to SDRT Wiseacre in the battle for 4th in GT. He's getting to grips with that BMW. Down into the low 23s now, where he's previously been in the mid to high. He's well in the slip as they head into the Andretti hairpin. Is he going to make a move for the position here? No, he sticks behind him under braking, which is always a sign of belief in their braking point. Side by side out of the Andretti hairpin, though, as they go under the Cooper Tyres bridge this time. Things are looking very tasty. Right on board with the 24 car, and Wiseacre be driving through the mirrors. Shaden Racing Team entry. Blue flags wave for some prototypes behind, but they're side by side. There goes little Blacko. Spud tries to follow him through. 3 wide as they go down the Rayhouse straight towards the corkscrew. And Spud manages to get the position in amongst the traffic, but then he immediately just overcooks the rear tyres. You see here, 3 wide briefly, then tips it into the corkscrew and just gets it wrong. So that battle continues on. The BMW, of course, turbo car, does have a bit of a spiky throttle. The initial traction can be a bit of a fight. I've driven the car in some leagues myself, so I'm familiar with it. Shouldn't make it sound bad, it was actually quite a good little car. 7.3 seconds now, the gap between Punts and Blacko, and you can see on the right of screen there, 1:14.6, 1:13.3, laps 21 and 22. That would rather imply that Punts has had a couple of dodgy laps there, potentially in amongst the traffic. There is the traffic. Looks like Rugworth got a bit of a hip check there from Blacko, but of course they have already had a little bit of a coming together. Nothing major, but they did have a little bit of fender on fender not so long ago. Diswood tries to work around the outside of Rugworth, and he does, but again, just a little bit of contact, which will have unsteadied the ship of the Porsche just a little bit. It's racing, running fairly consistent in 3rd place. The wiper's still going on that car. Someone needs to tell him we're in California. Oh, Spud just getting a bit loose. He'll be recalibrating himself after that moment at the corkscrew, and I think as much as he is just essentially filling in to make sure Pointed doesn't race in vain, I think he will gradually become more competitive as this race goes on, and not just in the sense of he'll get quicker, but I think he'll also become more and more invested in the battle. I think he wants to claim the scalp of Wiseacre, but he's got some work to do to catch back up. This, of course, is the car that Spud will drive later. He'll be doing a 4-hour stint, so will Diswood. here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Look at that advantage for rubber gear. 28 seconds to the good in GT at the moment. That is seriously impressive stuff from the Corvette driver. We continue to follow the battle for second place then, as the Laguna Seca 4 Hours rolls on. I have just spotted, unfortunately a little bit late, that I have the Trackstars touring cars logo on the stream. Unfortunately I can't do an awful lot about that now, because I don't have the Endurance Series logo, I don't think. I've only got the Formula and the touring cars. And nonetheless, the more buttons I press during the stream, the more things are liable to go wrong, so I'd rather just leave that, but my apologies. As for Elite Brake and Mechanical, you can thank me later for the extra exposure that you're getting by accident. Loudy. Oh, we just join at an inopportune moment for Loudy. This on board. Looked like he just got the car unsettled on the curbs. Yes, indeed. Too much torque, not enough grip. And unfortunately, engine damage is his reward. And another moment for Loudy. Oh dear. The race for the number 20 RoboSport Toyota is falling apart at the seams. Of course, it's so important in this race that the drivers stay on the lead lap for their teammate to try and effectively stay in the hunt for the win. This won't do the 20 RoboSport team any favours. Also interesting that Huso, who just doesn't seem to have the kind of pace we expect from him around here. It's interesting that he is already 55 seconds off the lead. I suggest he's going to go a lap down, if not worse, before the end of the race. Loudy Dartmist has made it to the pits off camera. Meanwhile, Puntz is continuing to build an advantage once more. I think Puntz is right in the midst of some GT traffic at the moment. In fact, he's got Devlin Calypso with him there as, I suppose, something like a snowplow for the GT runners. GT BMW shouldn't give him too much drama, especially given the driver is going to be in the 32 later, but contact between Puntz and Devlin, that was very strange. It was as if Devlin just lost power there. And sure enough, he did actually run out of boost. And so the car slowed to a snail's pace. That's what caught out Puntz. And that has once again shrunk down the gap to Blacko. Back to 7 seconds once more. The ebb and flow of an endurance race, especially one of a multi-class ilk, once again shows itself. Oh, Puntz across the gravel there. Might get a track limit pen for his troubles, but no, he looks like he got away with that, but certainly that would have been a heart-in-mouth moment for the 32. For myself, this is the first of 3 weekends with an endurance racing flavour to them. Next week, on the Saturday in the real world at Cadwell Park for the Ford KA 6-hour race. That's right, we race Ford KAs over here in the UK now. The Enduro CAS series. I'll be running for 6 hours at Cadwell. Then the following weekend, which sadly is the first weekend where I will have to at least temporarily resign from Trackstar's duties, it's the Citroën C1 24-hour race. Citroën C1, a little city car. And, close to 3 digits worth of Citroën C1. 99 cars entered in 2019. I'm not sure how close we'll get to that this year, given the state of the world, but we'll see. But certainly endurance racing currently the theme of my life, and the theme of all of these drivers' lives at the moment as well. Who was that coming out of the pits? I believe that was Spuds. No, that was Mix, actually. May have been in the wars a little bit. So Spud's fairly comfortable there in what is 5th place in class by over a minute at this stage. Calypso in the pits. Doesn't look like he's got any damage, and he's on red on the fuel, so I think he's on a scheduled stop. He still could have done 2 or 3 more laps on the fuel he's got, but decided to pit in now. Of course, if you're 2-stopping, about every 40 minutes is half of the course in regards to pit stop time, but I think most of these prototype runners looking for a 2-stop, 1-stop I should say. Look at the fuel on Punz's car. He's been fuel saving admirably. It's going to be a bit tighter for Little Blacko. I don't think he's going to get 20 more minutes out of that tank. I think he will be 2-stopping. Question is, would it be worth yielding to that fact now, getting fresher tyres on the wagon, because even if he drives this for 10 more minutes, he's not going to get an hour and 10 out of the car in the second stint, one would imagine. We'll see. Brandosa still holding on well there in 3rd place. Laudy back in again with more engine damage. It already happened by the time we get to the replay, so Laudy's race has really taken a turn, unfortunately. into the pits with just a litre of fuel left. The black and gold Corvette, repping various Gran Theft Auto sponsors. Ammunition sponsored as well, that'll be popular in the United States. There's Dis Woods, he's got a bit more left in the tank. In the 911, the howling, naturally aspirated 991 Porsche 2017 spec GTE 911, one of the best sounding GT cars of this era. Look at its racing's fuel. So he's not quite had the ultimate pace, but clearly he has been driving to a plan. Unfortunately, he's still come out behind Rubber Gear, whose pace is incredible. Has only come out 2.8 seconds behind Dis Wood as well. Seriously impressive driving. Little Blacko, meanwhile, having a little bit of skating going on. 22 car, last lap of 1:11.6, which doesn't come close to Puntz's 1:10.5, but it's good to see his pace evolving, and that's also good to see that his lap times, looking down his last few laps, they're getting more consistent as well, which is great. Seventh lap of the race, 45 minutes in the books here at Laguna Seca. Tried a keyboard shortcut, I did it wrong. Good. Got it back. Oh, little Blacko there. He looked like he was flying into the pit lane. Let's take a look at that. Oh, I think he might be... Yeah, that looked like a bit of lag. Nonetheless, we spoke of him struggling to make it to the hour mark. That's confirmed now that he isn't going to do that. Puntz, meanwhile, in amongst the traffic. The GT battle, of course, back into the lead, has gone Rubber Gear just before Dis Wood made his pit stop. So Rubber Gear resumes the lead. Oh, Laudy! Just outbraking himself there. Almost got into the back of Puntz. Not sure whose heart would have been further down the mouth, but certainly that was a scary moment. Full tank of petrol in the RoboSport Racing Toyota. Oh, Punts there. Made a slight error. Hasn't got any damage, but just pushed it a bit too far. Just hip checked the wall in such a way that he didn't end up with damage, but I think he's been thrown off rhythm just slightly by the traffic, and then that moment with Laudy as well. And just potentially will be driving through the mirrors a bit more now, because of course he's now got that precedent of the little incident with Laudy. And sometimes that does stray in your mind, and again it's happened 2 laps in a row. Laudy, what are you doing, sir? Goodness me, did Punts get damaged? Thankfully not. But unfortunately, I think Laudy there just getting caught out by the slipstream. Not braking in time. I'm not convinced he'd have made the corner even if Punts' slipstream wasn't a factor, to be honest. That is not a great moment for our leader. Thankfully, comes out of that one relatively unscathed. And is now once again unaccompanied, albeit with some GT traffic and one of the other Toyotas ahead. Definitely Calypso giving Punts a wide berth there. Yuzo running well still. He's done a good job of fuel saving. He's looks like he's going to do this on a one-stop quite comfortably. Oh, Xylon and Brandosa both run off track there. Like Xylon missed his braking and Brandosa just kind of followed him off. Yeah, no, that's unless there was a touch between them on their end as opposed to mine. It looked like both of them simply missed their braking point, and I think the GT braking point is a bit further ahead than, or a bit further back than Xylon tried to make it there. Oh, Brandosa with an armful of opposite lock there. Didn't mean to replay there, my apologies. But surely having a bit of dramatic time of it at the moment. He has made a pit stop, as has Little Blacko. The advantage between Blacko and Brandosa is now about a half dozen seconds. And while this man Punts continues. First car a lap down at the moment is Huzo. Meanwhile, off camera, Spud has managed to make his way past this man SDRT Wiseacre. So Spud doing a good job here for the Pit Lane Esports crew. As a last-minute super sub, both cars have pitted, and joining them in the pits, or joining him on the list of cars that have pitted, to be slightly more accurate, is the It's Racing Esports Aston Martin. Meanwhile, Diswood in the Porsche goes past the pit lane and moves back into second in class. 44 seconds back from Rubber Gear, who may well hand that car over with a lapse advantage if he keeps up the current pace. It would be very close. Where is It's Racing relative to Spud? That is It's Racing, I believe, just coming out of pit lane now. And so sure enough, It's has lost a good chunk of time there. I think potentially trying to get a one-stop out of the car. But it doesn't look like that's going to be possible since he's only managed 52 minutes in the first stint. So he's going to have to find some speed now. And potentially just have a shorter second pit stop. Less fuel in the car. Oh, sounded like some squealing rubber there on the Shaden Racing Team Porsche. Was that as sideways as it sounded? Yeah, no. Well, yes, actually. Certainly sounded like all of the telltale noises of a moment, and sure enough, it rather was one. Battle for what is third in class in GT, all on the same bit of tarmac. N-Spud being hunted down by Wiseacre. The 24 BMW, of course 24, one of the numbers that BMW runs over in the United States on the M8 GTE cars, so some real-life parallels there. Oh, Spud just struggling for traction. He's on older tyres now. Both Wiseacre and It's Racing have new tyres on the car, so Spud is potentially going to be a bit of a sitting duck here. I'm not sure there's that much merit, to be honest, to double stinting the tyres at a circuit like this. The pit stop saving doesn't strike me as rich enough to take the risk of the lower grip, especially a car as traction critical as the BMW, but we'll see if it pays out for Spud. Of course, Spud is very much unfamiliar with this car. The paint was applied to the car about 10 minutes before the race. Last minute super sub joining disappointed in the pit lane esports ranks for one night only. The mashed Spud himself in enemy territory, I suppose, in that seat. Here comes SDRT Wiseacre as they go through the Andretti hairpin. LMP traffic behind as Spud gets loose. There is said LMP traffic. It's Little Blacko who ends up on the dirt there trying to take evasive action. Spud again struggling for traction. I think he's going to be doing a lot of counter steering in this next stint with the older tyres, and it looks like a move maybe on the cards here. The nose of the Porsche being shown, but Spud just about keeps the car ahead. Wiseacre thinks better of trying to make the move there, again with a good run up the hill as they head towards the left-hand flick and on to the Ray House straight for the 39th time in the race. Spud runs it a bit wide there, compromises his exit just slightly. Wiseacre looks to the inside as they head towards the corkscrew, but again thinks better of the move. EBM Brandosa now on the scene as well, and It's Racing closing up on both of these drivers all the while. It's critical that Wiseacre gets past Spud while he's got this fresh tyre on the Porsche, and he's not yet able to find a way through. Valiant defending from N-Spud as they go side by side towards the final corner. Wiseacre with just a little bit of a wheel on the dirt loosens the car, but great exit out of the corner. Look at that, the Porsche just slingshots out of the turn, and through goes Wiseacre. It's Racing is now right on the bumper of the BMW. The BMW, of course, Spud, and Spud, the co-commentator for Trackstar's TS2, along with It's Racing. So the broadcast duo now getting their elbows out in the Trackstars Endurance Series, as they so often do as well in the touring cars. Both drivers title contenders at this stage of the Trackstars touring cars season, and now they've come together in a most unlikely scenario. N-Spud for Pit Lane Esports battling with the It's Racing Esports Aston Martin, driven by the head honcho. Of course, Itz is, among other things, a real-life sprint car racer. Still very much a three-way battle. Wiseacre hasn't distanced himself particularly from Spud. It's maybe just under a second that he has over the BMW. And he'll be watching the mirrors to see how long it takes It's Racing to get through. Spud's left the door open a bit there at the Andretti hairpin, but he now has the inside as they turn right for the Cooper Tyres bridge. I think Spud there had to slightly compromise his run to avoid the sausage curb, and is that the opportunity that It's Racing needs? Yes, it is. Can Spud bite back? Well, he can't pull out despite a good run because Mitch was there in the Porsche. We've got a slow car up ahead. Was that? That was, I think, Mitch maybe having a bit of a moment. Wiseacre has now built a slight advantage of 1.8 seconds over It's Racing, but it's certainly looked quicker in that first stint, and we'll see if and when he catches up to the back of the Shaden Racing Team Porsche. The traffic continues with Laudy Darkmist there. Laudy's had a mixed bag of a race so far, but he's still running P5 ahead of Devlin Calypso and Esmich in the 477 car. Oh, It's there, I think, just outbraking himself slightly. He's still got to worry about Spud, who is not a removed problem yet, and they've also got to worry about blue flags behind them because the GT leader, we're talking that he may potentially hand the car over with a lap over the rest of the field, and he's closing up on the podium battle at the moment. Wiseacre then up the Rayhouse straight, currently with a bit of a cushion over It's Racing. Let's see how that one evolves as the race goes on. Puntz, meanwhile, is still yet to pit. And as we just tick over to half distance now, an hour into the race, it looks like he is successfully one-stopping. Critically, it looks like he's going to be the only driver to do so. Bit of a moment there with Rugworth. A slight hesitation. Potentially a rise of the heartbeat as well. Huso has also one-stopped, of course. He's been doing a good job, I should say, of keeping that car conserved, but he is already a lap down on Puntz. Puntz continues on his way. Must have, I guess, just one more lap of fuel in the car. Huso, meanwhile, only just exits the pit lane. So that puts him 2 laps down. He's also a lap down on Blacko at the moment. But right now, this very much feels like a story of 2 amazing performances at the head of the order from this man Puntz and this man Rubber Gear in GT. It's Racing has fallen back behind Spud. I'm not sure what happened to It's there. Off camera, oh, he's had a shocker of a lap before last, a 1:27, so after we switched to look at other battles, clearly It's Racing had something of a moment. Whether he was accompanied in that moment or not, I can only speculate. Punts goes by for yet another lap. The pace is still very much in the car. Of course, it's at its lightest at the moment. If the tyres are still giving you what you need, then by all means, I suppose, keep pushing. Oh, just a glancing bite of the dirt there for Punts. Seven minutes of racing left to run here. Oh, and Punts has run out of petrol. He pushed it too far. Thankfully, the car ran out on the downhill from Rainy Curve. He'll have only lost a couple of seconds, but pushing it to the very finest of margins there was Punts. Did turn out to be one lap too many, but it won't have lost him too much time. It shouldn't have cost him the lead in the long term. He is, of course, definitely one stopping this race. Into the pits comes our leader. Now, will Blacko be ahead of him after this pit stop? That'll be interesting to see. I'm pretty sure he will be, the length of this pit stop. Here is the Mash Spuds Racing Toyota. Through Rainy Curve. Let's check in again with Spud. Tank is replenished and he's actually going to come out in the lead. So not only is he not due for another pit stop, but he's also back out in the lead even while fuel saving. This is an exemplary drive to this point from Punts. Wheel on the dirt there for the Aston. Will have had Punts holding his breath. Xylon recovering well after getting engine damage on the very first lap. Huzo, 4th place. And indeed running a lap down. I believe Diswood will be getting into that car for the second stint. And he may have to deal with Nismo, the second driver in this car, the number 20, because look at that gap. Just 2.2 seconds between Huzo and Laudy. The Laudy is closing in, so another good on-track battle. Speaking of on-track battles, It's Racing has got back by N-Spud. So those older tyres starting to drop off on pace for Spud. Meanwhile, that battle for fourth place we were just talking about, hotting up as they're in this traffic. reports through the commentary booth. We watch Audi Dark Mist easing past its racing. And now, on a straight, the Toyota tends to be stronger. And sure enough, he moves to the inside, has more hybrid power, and before they even get to the corner, Audi Dark Mist is up into 4th place. Rugworth there, turns in on Huso. That won't go down too well. Have to be aware of the prototypes coming up behind you, but granted, it is very difficult to be acutely aware of your mirrors. The circuit is tight and twisty and unrelenting. It's Laguna Seca. Still, I think Huso will have had a few words to say about that in his virtual visor. Of course, this will be, if things continue on this path, not only in this first 2-hour segment, but if Spud can pick up where Punts looks set to leave off, this will be good for the championship challenge for the Mashed Spuds. 288 points for them versus 294 for the 22 RoboSport racing car. In fact, if things were to finish as they are right now in 2 hours and 50 minutes time, then we would end up with a stalemate in the points heading into the next race. Calypso continues to run well in 6th place. Looks like he's kept his nose fairly clean in this one. SDRT Wiseacre just coming out of the pits. Hard tyres have stayed on, full tank of fuel. So is he going to try and run it to the end here? Moreover, was there an incident and some damage involved in his pit stop? I don't think he'd gained any damage. Those tyres might be a little bit worn come 50 minutes time if he can stretch the stint that long in the Porsche. We've seen 52 minutes out of the Aston in the hands of its racing, so it might be possible with some lifting and coasting, maybe some fuel map adjustments as well. Could prove to be a winning strategy in the battle for 3rd place. That position currently held by this man, It's Racing. Punts drives by. It's Racing's Aston Martin presses on. The 96 car, however, a new entry, not a car we've had on the points board so far. In the hands of Rubber Gear, he's driving away. No licensed cars in Grand Theft Auto. The Grand Theft Auto inspired livery is currently being pushed to the very top of the pecking order in GT. Just a wheel on the dirt there, but nothing that unsettles the car particularly. Brandosa He's lost a little bit more time across this stint to Blacko, but Brandosa's going to be happy with his performance to this point in the race. 23.2 seconds between he and Punts. But of course, more importantly, the EBM car is still on the lead lap. 264 points on the board at the moment. 18 back from CP Motorsports in the 16. So it would bring them closer to the rostrum in the championship standings if this result pans out across the 4 hours. Not certain of who's going to be driving that car yet. Is scheduled to drive it, but there's some question marks as to whether he'll be here. I think if those question marks persist, it might even be me at the wheel, so that could be intriguing. Bozza is maybe being enlisted here on the on the chat by Robbo. Damn it, Robbo, I was psyching myself up. Anyway, Xiaomi may yet race, so we'll see. Currently got a high pressure situation in the commentary booth as Neil the Cat stands over the keyboard. My furry son, I don't want you to ruin the stream. Careful! I'd rather take the Corvette than the Porsche if I'm being honest. I'm not sure I'm cut out for prototypes, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll get to the end of the 2 hours. If there's a seat for me in a car and there isn't someone better to drive it, I'll hop in. See if I can fulfill my Dick Johnson fantasies and have an ear on the commentary booth as well. Punts leading the race by 8.5 seconds. Has dipped into the 112s a few times in the last few laps. That might be down to traffic, might be down to some severe fuel saving. Of course, he did run out with just 3.5 minutes after the hour on his way into the pit lane. What you have to remember is the first lap of that hour was driven much slower because it was the formation lap leading into the rolling start. Ooh, just leaping over the curbs once again. Often seems to push the limits at the corkscrew. Spud burning a penalty. He's now ended up on fresh rubber. He's been in the pits relatively recently, looking at the state of those hards. And he's only 12 seconds off of Wiseacre in their forever war. Of course, I think he will be able to push a bit more than Wiseacre. If Wiseacre's to get to the end of this race, he's going to have to do some fuel saving. funny enough, Neil did meow into a microphone just a couple of days ago on a Zoom call, but he tends to keep his P's and Q's to himself when I'm yelling into the TV for some reason. I'm sure Neil would have a go at me if I spun. As some of you know, I've upgraded to a G29 over a controller, which all told is part of the reason why I'm a bit on the fence about, or I was certainly a bit up on the fence about driving a CP Motorsports Porsche LMP1 car, because I'm off my native pad and I don't want to revert back to it, because I'll get back into the habit of pad driving and lose my progress on the G29. But of course the G29 vibrates, and Neil has now taken to laying across the desk because he enjoys the vibrations. So my new purchase turns out that Neil likes it just as much. There's It's Racing, third place in class. 1:23.2, his fastest lap of the race, set just a couple of laps ago. Pounding in the 23s relentlessly, very consistent stuff from It's Racing. And again lowers the bar, a 23.251. It's Racing looking to solidify his hold on that third place. He'll be pushing at the moment to build the gap out to Wiseacre as far as he can to try and keep the place even after the pit stop. Of course, his pit stop, which will come probably in the last 20-25 minutes, will be a very short stop because he will not need a full tank of petrol. So he could, with the splash and dash, still get out in front of Wiseacre, especially if he can continue to build a cushion. Yellow flags at the corkscrew, and there's a car facing the wrong way. Who is it? It's Huso. Let's see if we can see what happened to Huso. Looks like this might have been done all on its own. Yeah, just a bit late on the brakes, bit deep into the corner, too early on the power. So easily done. Unghosted just as he got into the gravel there. That will have been heart in the mouth for both It's Racing and Punts, who was coming through there at the same time. Bit of an error there for Huso. There's Devlin Calypso coming out of the pits. Gap staying about the same between Blacko and Punts. Oh yes, guys, I'm well aware that a lot of you are on the controller and very quick, and I'm quicker on the controller at the moment as well, but I want to get myself back up to pace on the wheel, and if I keep jumping back on the controller, I'll never find that pace. What's happened there with Punts? Punts has lost all of his lead in one fell swoop. I think he had a moment with Devlin Calypso. And potentially Huso as well, who is right there with them. I'm not certain of what happened there, but look what it's done to the lead of the race. Little Blacko, yes, he does have to pit again, almost certainly. Well, no almost about it. He's not going to make a quarter of a tank last 38 minutes, but if Punts is now struggling to regain his rhythm, having little Blacko right on his tail surely isn't going to help. So Blacko here is going to keep applying the pressure in the hopes of forcing more errors. Unfortunate that we didn't quite catch the replay in time to see what happened to Punts, but clearly had something of a moment. Looked like it involved Devlin Calypso as well. Maybe they tried to go too wide around that fast left-hand flick, or potentially Devlin was a bit slower around the corner than anticipated. We'll likely not know about that one until maybe it's reported as an incident for the stewards to look at. Don't know if that will be the case or whether it will be judged to be a racing incident by the drivers. Kuntz and Blacko, though, now very much on the same piece of real estate. This, of course, helps this man as well. Even though he's coming into the pits for his final stop, the fact that he came in just 16 seconds off the lead again strengthens his chances of finishing this stint of the race on the lead lap and handing the car over in a strong position to challenge for victory. Brandosa back out on circuit. How far off the lead is he? About 53 seconds. Looks like Blacko's had some difficulties on this lap. He's dropped back from Kuntz. 1:14.3. That's certainly not an optimal lap time. Of course, we were talking just a few moments ago about how critical it could be for his chances of winning this first split of the race and handing the car over in the lead. It was critical for him to apply pressure to Kuntz. And he can still do so from 4 seconds back, but certainly he's no longer dogging the mirrors of the Mash Spuds Racing Toyota. And did I just see a little bit of team-on-team warfare? I think I saw a little bit of contact between Spud and the car that he's going to be racing in an hour's time. Oh no, not quite, but made his job easy. Kuntz. Past goes little Blacko. There's Huso closing in as well. 7-speed box, of course, in the 919. How easy the LMP1 cars blow past these GTs with the hybrid power. A phenomenon we saw plenty of times in real life. Continue to watch then as Mitch comes into the pits. We are 34 minutes away from the end of this first stint. It's Kuntz who leads in the Laguna Seca 4 hours, third round of the Trackstars Endurance Series. as we ride on board here with Spud, with Punts I should say, in the Mash Spuds Toyota, you can see some of the fuel saving strategies at work. Down changes very late into the corner. Clearly it works wonders for him. Interesting strategy. Taking notes, Punts. I'm taking notes. I often have to fuel save in some of the categories I race in, so all useful data. Little Blacko. Still losing a bit of time to Punts, but 5.7 seconds isn't bad. Look at the camber on that Ferrari. It's a very tricky car, the Ferrari, especially once the tyres start to wear, so stability is key. Fastest lap of the race so far from Huso, 13.2. I believe he is now 2 laps down on Punts. Yeah, looks like he is. Oh, what a bit of a contact there between It's Racing and Punts. That won't have done too much to him, but certainly will have just caught It's Racing by surprise. It's, of course, on the verge of a pit stop in the GT running. Third in class at the moment. The leader in the class is coming up behind him. We have lost a car as well. I haven't actually seen who that is. That would be Loudy Dark Mist, who's gone missing. Yep, he's just left the room. I don't know if he's been in the lobby for a while. I'd hope he didn't quit. I assume it's a disconnect. So 43 seconds the cushion that It's Racing has come into the pit lane with. He only has to fuel for the half hour, but I still think that's about 2/3 of a tank on the Aston, if not maybe a tad bit more if he wants to push as hard as he can. Let's see where Spud comes out then, relative to It's Racing. Keep an eye on that pit exit. Where will the Aston Martin spawn? The Beamer goes past, but I think the Aston's already out of the pits. Yes, indeed, there is It's Racing. This is going to be tight. It's Racing does come out ahead by 2.8 seconds. Tyres now coming up to temp. Now, in the completely stock BMW, can Spud try and close in on It's Racing? Yes, that's not his car. Yes, he's got 2 more hours of racing to consider, but he'll be trying to push. I know for a fact that he will try anything, or try and beat It's Racing in anything. Doesn't matter if it's his car or someone else's. He'll give it his best shot. Little Blacko, with his last pit stop, should come out clear of Brandosa, who shouldn't have to pit again as long as he can fuel save. It's going to be tight actually. 28 minutes to go. And just under half a tank. It's going to depend very much on how he fuel saves. And oh, lunges up the inside of Spud. That'll be considered fair game, but I think it might have scared Spud a little bit. He's not used to being on the GT side of these situations. Blacko running P2, 41.7 seconds clear, or back I should say, from Punts. With that last pit stop now completed, he's definitely got enough fuel, 3/4 of a tank, but potentially slightly overfilling as well. Brandosa, though, I think is not going to be able to challenge for this position, because if he's to make it without another stop, he's going to have to do some fuel saving. Of course, he's also going to want to fall no more than about 15 seconds further back than he currently is, because he'll want to stay on the lead lap. Kuntz is out there hammering away 1:11s, and he's only 59 seconds clear. So if Brandosa loses another dozen or so, this car will be passed. So he's going to be trying to fuel save. He's certainly going to be trying not to pit again, because he'll want to stay on the lead lap and hand over to, well, someone. We're still not sure who. Seconds, the gap between Kuntz and Blacko. I think Blacko will be pushing all out, whereas Kuntz is still fuel saving, so we'll see if the gap goes up or down. But Kuntz's pace has been exemplary so far. The Robo Sport racing car. Corvette tipped into the last turn. Spud in the rearview mirrors, still there with its racing. What's the gap between those two now? It's 2.1 seconds, so the gap is going down. Meanwhile, Spud, in his completely stock, fresh out the wrapper BMW M6. I think he's going slightly quicker than it's at the moment. He is. It's racing also has the emergencies on. Not sure why. This man, Diswood, rather on his own island there, in second place in GT. Meanwhile, the leader of the class is running just behind him. It's been a very impressive drive so far from the 96 car. Look at this, closing up on the Porsche. Massive short shifting in the Corvette, you can get away with that. Ooh, Wood having a bit of a moment there. He's caught it just about. And he goes a lap down with a flourish, does Diswood. Rubber Gear has accomplished what we speculated he might earlier on, with 23 minutes to go in this first stint of the Laguna Seca 4 hours. There is now a lap between the Corvette and the rest of the field. To the 80th lap of the race then, and Kuntz it is, with a Firm grasp on the lead. Oh, but a wheel there, just glancing the dirt, and the way, the angle of which he touched the dirt there. He was very lucky not to be sent into a spin. He goes over the corkscrew there. Again, has most likely released the throttle there to avoid a pen. Closes up on the top two in GT. I wonder if he knows that they're a lap apart. Gear has been in a class of his own here. Oh, Punt's just getting it a bit loose. Loses there, you see there, visually 1.2 seconds he lost. Just having those little hiccups. But he's got that kind of space at the moment. And in fact, Little Blacko has lost a whole bunch of time in the last few seconds. He's had a moment there at that left-hand flick by the looks of it. Potentially also involving Mix 13. Mix 1, 2, 3, I should say. My apologies. Just thinking that maybe Puntz had dropped a couple of seconds to Blacko, but Blacko dropped a handful of seconds to Puntz in response. So it ends up as a net positive this lap for Puntz, as Blacko's gap recedes further. It's racing continuing to be homed in on there by N-Spud. There goes Blacko, powers by. Look at that gap, 1.5 seconds. '95 car with the twitch. It's racing, clearly pushing hard. He's currently on for a blue lap. Mitch makes his way past. 1.2 seconds. The gap is coming down despite the pace from its racing. Let's see if this is his quickest lap so far. It's not. He lost a bit of time in the final sector, but comparative pace, Spud is winning the day. The tyres are fresher on the Aston. That could pay dividends in the last 20 minutes, but Spud is going to push him all the way. The other story, of course, in this last 20 minutes is this man Brandosa, 1 minute and 4 back from the lead, which, as we can see, is not much at all on track in terms of staying on the lead lap. Of course, even if the race was where now, the 34 car will effectively start 1 minute and 5 seconds behind Puntz and the Mash Spuds racing crew, although it will of course be Spud in the car for the second stint. However, being on the lead lap is always just a point of strength come the end of the race. Mitch around the outside. It's racing there. EBM Porsches left, right and centre. That won't have been entirely comfortable, but the Elite Brake and Mechanical guys have found themselves together on track. Brandosa passes by the big boss. 0.7 of a second, the gap in this battle for third place in GT. This is hotting up, and oh, Spud there almost lost the back end, and he almost did so right into the side of the Mash Spuds Racing Toyota. That would have been an interesting handover of cars after 2 hours. Question is, if he bends the BMW, who foots the bill? Mash Spuds or Pit Lane Esports? It's been a great drive so far from Spud. If he can get third place in this stint, hand over to Disappointed in such a strong position. Pointed will be very happy. Oh, was that punts off? Was that punts? No, it wasn't, thankfully. But who did go off there? Someone went for a skid. Meanwhile, there's been a change of position between Itz and Spud. Let's look at that. We'll also see if we can catch who went off. I think that was Mix, and Spud pulled the pin and took the place into the last corner. Side by side, heading into the Andretti hairpin, but Spud has retained the advantage. Third place in the class is his for the time being. I do believe that was Mix who went off. It's been an all-go 2 hours of racing here. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed commentating on this one. It's been great racing so far here this evening for you, the latter stages of this morning for me. Bozza, I know you directed that at Robbo, but I think it'll be okay if you race your own car. Shiami is meant to be running the 34 car. Whether or not he's going to make it, I don't know. If not, I'm sure I can jump in. Or someone else might. I don't know, we'll see. Lots of willing drivers. Two CP Motorsports Porsches finding each other on track. Oh, and that could have gone slightly worse than it did. Huso ending up having to split the difference between Wiseacre and Wood, who looked to be engaged in something of a GT class fisticuffs in spite of the lap difference between them. We know that Diswood is a driver with a penchant for strong language, and I think several words will be said, none of which I can repeat, but the sentence will end in blue flags. Is Wiseacre not going to lift off and let him by? I mean, the flags are definitely meant to be out for him, and they are. Oh, they both run off track there. Really need, he's blocking as well, really needs to observe the blue flags here. This is not on. Yes, they're in class battle, but as someone who's being shown the blue flags, you don't have any right to defend that position. He even runs Diswood onto the curbs. This is a bit of a risky strat from Wiseacre, especially if Diswood reports that and it ends up in the steward's inquiry list. I think potentially it wouldn't be looked upon too well. Diswood's car is blue, and he's probably turning the cockpit blue with some of that language that he'll be spilling right now. He's going to dive up the inside because he has to. Wiseacre, again, seems to think he's in a battle for position. Will not budge an inch, and finally, Diswood has got past SDRT Wiseacre, but that was a lot harder than it had any right to be. Wood Continues on in second place. Of course, he's over a lap down on the leader of the GT class. Ponce continues to lead. Gap is still about the same, 51 seconds. And look at that, new fastest lap of the race a few laps ago. A 1:10.2. I wouldn't put it past him to try for a 1:09 if he gets some clean track before the end of this one. Brandosa runs wide, and that puts him a lap down. We just saw it happen. Brandosa ran the car wide and has now officially been lapped. Oh, he really had to pick his space there with Mix. Just ran it, car understeered. And there goes Ponce. The EBM Porsche is now a lap down. The only two cars on the lead lap. Ponce and Little Blacko. And all it would take is a slight error from Blacko, and Ponce would be a lap clear of the field, because he's only about 20 seconds up the road, Little Blacko. It's been a brilliant drive from Ponce. He has been firmly... Oh, didn't mean to hit replay, my apologies. He's been firmly in control of this race from the get-go. Never looked likely to settle for second place. It's racing, still within a second of Spud, and it looks like he's trying to get that V12 Vantage out of the corners quick. He was looking for traction there. Eventually he did find some. 0.7 of a second, he's still within slip. And he's still pushing hard. All important, even though this isn't the end of the race. It's still important to get the car into as good of a position as possible. Just for the record, Benjo, I don't think it would be wise for me to start typing reams in the chat, because if I distract someone else, then I've affected a race completely separate from the incident, so I try to avoid voicing my opinion outside of this medium here on the microphone. And arguably I shouldn't be too opinionated on the microphone either, but at least in GT Sport, I actually race, so I can weigh in occasionally. Oh, who was that running wide? That was Mix in the Corvette, I believe. No, actually, it was Devlin Calypso. Quite a few dark blue or purple cars in this category. It does make identification a bit of a struggle if you've just got a quarter panel to look at. Spud through the second last corner on the 78th lap of the race. Lap 78, of course, 78 laps, the distance of the Monaco Grand Prix. That's next weekend. The return to the Principality for Formula One, having not held the Grand Prix last year. And overall, lack of street circuits, of course, due to the challenges of building a street track during the pandemic. But great to see Monaco back. Of course, we've seen some brilliant racing at Monaco over the last few weeks. The Monaco Historic holding that wonderful battle between Marco Werner and John Alesi that ended in some tears and bent rubber, or bent metal, I should say. But that was a great battle. And then, of course, the Monaco E-Prix, proving that passing is possible at Monaco, albeit in a Formula E car instead of a Formula One car, but still was absolutely excellent to watch. So the Grand Prix has quite an act to follow in the Principality. the backyard of the majority of the drivers, of course. 0.4 of a second between Spud and Itz. Itz has closed up again on this lap. They've got some prototypes coming through. There goes the 477 of Mitch. Almost ran a wheel on the dirt there coming into the corner. In fact, I think he did slightly, and that just kind of pushed him wide as he went round the corner. World's fastest potato versus the oldest Lightning McQueen fan. The 95 car up the inside. Spudsy holds on to it. Oh, just about an inch given to Spud. And Spud keeps hold of this. Great battle for third place with just over 6.5 minutes left to run. Third place in GT, heading into the second stint of the race, is going to be one of the battles to watch. Pit Lane Esports BMW being driven by Spud. Spud with a completely stock setup. He's come into this one close to blind. And it's racing, looking to try and capitalise, looking to take advantage if he possibly can. Oh, and it's there just getting a bit shaky. The other question is fuel. Itz clearly has more than enough. He's really overfilled the car there. He'll be ruining that one. Spud, though, has a fair bit less petrol. With 6 minutes left to go. He goes defensive as they head into the Andretti hairpin. The fuel goes on to red. So that could yet be a story in this last 6 minutes. He's holding on to third place in class for Pit Lane Esports at the moment, but that tank is running dry. Now, of course, we don't run particularly high fuel burn in this category, so whether or not red is a terrible sign with 5.5 minutes to go, I'd have to bow to someone with a little more knowledge. But certainly, Spud is going to be taking notice of that gauge. I dare say he might be a bit worried about it. It's racing. Would have been a bit worried there as he tried to catch that slide in the Aston Martin. Thankfully he did. We keep our eyes on this battle. Seems to be by far the closest one on track. It's racing there. Running a very loose tail on that Aston Martin by the looks of it. We'll check in with the prototypes again in just a minute, but we don't want to take our eyes off this battle right now between the serial championship rivals in the touring cars and the Formula Track stars, and of course the co-commentators on TS2 and F2. They get together a lot, Spud and Itz Racing, not like that. And now they're together on track. Itz goes to the inside at the Andretti hairpin. Will he get it stopped in time? Not quite. Spud gets the inside back and Itz Racing with the full-on Tokyo drift. And it's again with a wheel on the dirt. This is a great battle for third in GT as we come to the end of this motor race. Of course, this is all great for Dis Wood as well, and the CP Motorsports Porsche outfit. Oh, was that a moment for Blacko? It was! He's got damage with 3 minutes left to go. He's been closing in slightly on punts over the last few laps. Look at the gap, it's down to 45 seconds, but now he's got damage. He got into the rear of Itz Racing. I think we're late to the punch here for a replay. Oh, he just got a wheel on the dirt. Now, did he already have that damage, or was it caused by the incident? I'm looking at how that happened. I'd be inclined to say that might have already been there. Itz Racing is through. He's got the position. Let's see how he did it. He already had it going in, but Spud had the inside. It looks like it's getting a bit messy. Spud with not the best run, and It's Racing capitalises. Let's go back to live images, and It's Racing is still there. Spud's fuel is looking marginal. And look at how much he's short shifting. Went up to 6th gear there before the gear even considered registering as a change up. That was some very obvious short shifting. Spud has slightly short filled the BMW, and he's going to desperately be wishing that we're about to start his final lap, but unfortunately he has at least 2 more. Punts has some damage as well, so while we've been watching that battle, look at that time on lap 94, a 1:22. So clearly while we were watching that GT battle, and we didn't want to take our eyes off it because who knows what would have happened if we had, but clearly Punts has had an issue, and he's also gained himself some damage, and little Blacko is going to be distraught with this. He supposedly, I mean, it looks like he might have got damage in the incident with It's Racing, because he's had consistent laps up to that point, unless he got it a long time ago, but I can't imagine him doing 111s with a damaged car. Nonetheless, Blacko will be kicking himself for whatever errors he has made in this stint, because if he hadn't made them, he would have been quite comfortably within 30 seconds, I would think, of Punts. I'm wondering how long Rubber Gear has had that penalty. I hope he's read the rules regards penalty burning. Oh, I think that was a heart in the mouth for Punts. 1 more lap to go for the Mass Spuds driver, and it looks like N-Spud has firmly dropped It's Racing, or been dropped by It's Racing, I should say, and it's purely down to a lack of petrol. I think if he's short shifting and if he's on map 6, he might just get there without running out. It's going to be a close run thing. But he's certainly lost 3rd place, but still, Pointed will be happy to receive the car in 4th if that's what he gets. It's Racing running there in 9th, which of course equates to 3rd in class. Diswood has already crossed the line, as have a couple of the others. Blacko crosses the line in 2nd place. He will be considered to be on the lead lap come the end of the race. Or rather, once everything is all said and done, because he was within a lap when he crossed the line. Of course, the game's endurance race finish system is a bit stupid, but he will be considered to be on the lead lap. Brandosa will not, however. Punts crosses the line, and he takes the win in the first portion of this Laguna Seca 4 hours. Blacko is 2nd, Brandosa crosses the line 3rd. We've already had the winner in GT cross the line. Rubber Gear with a brilliant showing in the Corvette. Really did put on an exemplary drive. Blacko 44 seconds off Punts, once all was said and done, is not a bad showing. Brandosa just over a lap down at the end. That will be good as well. Huso with 4th place. I think 2 laps down come the end. In fact, maybe even 3 laps. It says 4 on the screen, but I think it might have been 3 all told. Nonetheless, it is Punts who claims the victory of sorts in the first half of the Laguna Seca 4 hours. Of course, N-Spud, who's now being extracted from the BMW, will get into the Toyota for 2 more hours of racing.
He's hardcore, ladies and gentlemen. He did hold on to his fourth in class, but he didn't actually cross the line. Now that could be difficult for the results as well, in regards to how far back he is from its racing. I don't know how they'll judge that, because it doesn't look like he crossed the line. I'm guessing he ran out of petrol. That's very interesting indeed. Drama abound in the Trackstars Endurance Series. Lots of questions there that will hopefully be answered over the course of the second half of the race. I believe we'll be handing over to It's Racing for the second part of the stream. Disappointed says he's more than happy to get the car in fourth place for the second 2 hours of running. But there we go. Punts with the best performance. Blacko second, Brandosa, Huso and Mitch the rest of the top 5. We will vacate the stream now so that It's Racing can hook himself up. But it looked like great racing across the board. Lots of awesome driving all over the order. But the best drive of all has to go to Punts, who hands the car, the number 32 Match Spuds Racing Toyota. He hands the car over. Oh, apologies, Benjo. I'll scroll down again. I did a couple of times, but he will hand the car over to N-Spud with a good advantage. Not quite a lap, but still, in the battle between Lurox and Spud in the second portion of this race, Spud will certainly have the upper hand. I will end this stream. Whether or not I'll be appearing in the race or not, I have no idea. I will certainly be on commentary for a bit with It's Racing as he streams the second portion, even if I'm not racing. I'd have to potentially vacate a bit early, but I will, at the very least, join him for a bit. Nonetheless, thank you very much for tuning in. The stream is over. We'll catch you again in just a few minutes with It's Racing for the second half of the Laguna Seca 4 hours. Stay tuned.